principle number 4, the principle of humility. So the first 3 principles are a little bit deeper. The last 7 are a little bit more practical. So with things like truth and justice, those are ideas that have been discussed and debated for thousands of years. These last 7 are a little bit more relatable to things we're doing in our everyday lives, I believe. So it should be a little bit easier to handle and understand. Humility. When we talk about humility, as we said in the introduction, one of the major things we want to do with mental fitness is we want it to be proactive. So we compare it to physical fitness, and the idea there is that if you have athletes who are competing, they do a lot of physical weight and strength training and conditioning. And the reason for that is, 1, to make them better athletes, and 2, to help them prevent injuries. And then if they are injured, hopefully the good strength and conditioning will help them recover from those injuries quicker. So we kind of have the same idea with mental fitness, where we want to help you strengthen your mindset so that whenever things do occur, you're well equipped to handle them and you can recover from tragic events quicker. So the idea is comparable there, and it ties into humility, because before you can ever improve in something, you have to first admit that you're capable of improving. You have to be willing to improve. So humility is fundamental, because you're not going to make any improvements in any other area in your life if you don't think that improvement is necessary. So like I said in the introduction, we looked across time and history at all sorts of different organizations, and one common theme is whenever they fail, it is due to lack of humility. So we know from experience that success is fragile. What we want to make sure we're doing is having a long-term mindset. Okay, that's what's going to help us be humble. We want to be able to look at the big picture and not get too caught up in one particular moment or instance. So again, to sort of compare to athletes, if we're playing a football game, it doesn't matter what the score is in the second quarter. Now that could be a good indicator of how the game is going to end, and it may determine behaviors and strategies that each team takes, but it hasn't determined the game yet, because the game's not over. There's a reason you play an entire game. So we need to make sure that we keep a big picture outlook on things, and that is what's going to help us to remain humble. That just because we did well yesterday doesn't guarantee that we're going to do well tomorrow. And the same thing goes for failure. Just because we haven't been doing well lately doesn't mean that we will never do well again. So we need to keep the open mindset, and really it's an adaptable mindset. What we need to do is be adaptable to different changes. Evolution tells us adapt or die. So we need to be adaptable to our environment, and the only way that we're going to do that is if we're willing to change, and that willingness is going to come from humility. So being responsible is the other thing we can do to sort of be humble. We want things to be our fault, and the reason is, as we've said many times about controlling the things that you can control, is if it is our fault, then we're able to control our own behaviors and actions, and that means we're able to change things and fix the problem. If something is someone else's fault, there's really not much we can do. We can try to convince them, we can try to get them to change their behavior, but really it's up to that other person. So we want to look for ways that things are our responsibility, and that really empowers us. So we've all heard the great quote, with great power comes great responsibility. And I think that is true, but I also think the reverse is true, that by taking on great responsibility, we can actually increase our power. Okay, and they do go hand in hand. But again, that comes from being humble and recognizing that it could be your fault, and there might be something that you could have done differently. So always look for ways that you can improve, and always try to take on as much responsibility as you can. What we don't want to do is overly compare ourselves to other people. Now, it's good to have idols that you can model your behavior off of. It's good to recognize how people are doing as a benchmark, but we want to be careful about comparing ourselves to other people. And again, this sort of goes back to our long-term thinking and taking a snapshot. So the reasons that it's bad to compare ourselves to other people are, one, we don't know what that person's goals are. We may be judging them off of our own goals and whether or not they're successful, but they may be unhappy in their own lives because they're not achieving their own goals. Secondly, just like the snapshot, we don't know what's happening. Things may be looking good now, they may be achieving all of their goals now, but it may be on shaky ground, right? They may not have a strong foundation, and in 5 years it may all fall apart. We don't know. So we can't make an early judgment. It's only the second quarter. Making those early judgments and over-relying on them may affect us negatively. So the last thing is that we can't control other people. So it really doesn't matter what other people are doing. All we can do is control ourselves. So the best thing we can do is compare ourselves to who we were yesterday. Make small improvements, and if we keep doing better each day, if today you're better than you were yesterday, that's the only comparison that matters. And over time, all those small improvements will add up, and that'll allow us to achieve our goals. By overly focusing on other people, what we do is, even if we are successful, we achieve their goals, right? So we need to make sure that we have our goals in line, and then we're doing things that help us move towards them, and we don't want to get distracted by other people and other people's goals. We want to keep a clear focus on what it is that we're trying to achieve and make sure that we're doing everything within our control to further that progress towards the goal. So really it comes down to, again, controlling the things that you can control, and you do that by being humble. Good simple saying I like for it is, be humble or be humbled. And the idea is, again, this success is fragile. If we don't take care to constantly be improving and looking to better ourselves, then someone else is going to come along and show us that we're not the best. So be humble or be humbled.